Welcome back to the Director's Garage. Don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm your host and resident idiot Michael, and it's Beatles week for me. Let It Be, the Giles Martin remix, just dropped, and I've been poring over the remix tracks and studio outtakes. I'll be breaking down the new album today in the context of our main subject, which is the Hifiman Susvara. Ooh, $6,000 worth of open-back magnetic planar goodness that taps into your very soul.
Come on.
Too much? See, everyone was waiting on the mega shootout, and I kind of jumped the gun. I didn't get to do a formal sound check of the Susvara. So today we're going to look at what makes this headphone great, and where does it fall maybe a little bit short. And is it worth that stratospheric price tag? We've got a lot to cover, so let's get going. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was loving life on the HE-1000 V2. This was like back in 2017, 2018, before we had a care in the world about face masks and cotton swabs up the nose. You know, I get tested like 3 times a week. I'm not kidding. My running joke is that I haven't had this much white stuff up my nose since the 1980s.
Oh, gross.
TMI? All right. Well, the HE-1000 V2 was a world-class headphone. It was ridiculously fast. It had a wide soundstage, great detail, wonderful imaging, and I was like, this is awesome. I've got an end-game, top-of-the-line headphone. I'm set for the next 5... What? It's 6,000 for a headphone? You gotta be kidding me. Now, I'd heard the Susvara a few times, most notably at CanJam in 2018. It was paired up with the brand new, at the time, Woo Audio WA33. The other 2 headphones that were sitting there were the Utopia and the Abyss, which is now sold. And I was all about the Utopia at the time. They'd only been on the market for a short time. And my take on the Susvara back then was that they kind of tweaked the HE-1000 and got a little more speed and better detail, but not 2 times of anything. Well, there's a little bit of jealousy in that sentiment. I was really upset that they released this flagship above what I had. So the Susvara represented to me the Hifiman kind of looking at the market and seeing the Abyss doing reasonably well at the $5,000 price point, and they wanted to make an impact, so boom, they dropped the Susvara down at twice the price of the HE-1000 and see if it sells. Well, we're all idiots. We bought the damn thing. And $6,000 has now become the flagship benchmark price point. Everyone has been trying to edge closer to the Susvara price bracket since this headphone. Now, this deal came along and I paid nowhere near retail, thank God, or we'd be closing up the Director's Garage. So let's start with ergonomics, and this headphone really is a refinement of that HE-1000 design. It is evolutionary, not revolutionary. You've got the Swiss cheese leather straps spanning a stainless band. You've got the louver exoskeleton. The main differences between the HE-1000 and the Susvara are the shape of the ear cup. It's more round than oblong, and the build quality. The HE-1000 would separate occasionally. So for the extra $3,000, you get a headphone that won't fall apart. Imagine. Okay, it is more polished. The parts fit tighter together. There's a seamlessness and a refinement to this headphone. It's a good build. I also like the fit and the feel of it. The clamp isn't very tight, but the stainless steel band does make for a lot of flexi-flex. Is there anything I would change? Yeah, I would stiffen up this frame a little bit, and I would include a travel case. Maybe throw in a better cable for the price. I mean, there are some margins at play here. A nice cable is not the biggest ask. Moving on to sound properties, and I'm gonna start with imaging. These really do a fantastic job of dropping instruments around a 3D soundstage. They are the closest thing to an electrostatic without owning an electrostatic. Check out the precision on an album like Gene Harris's All-Star Big Band tribute to Count Basie. You're in the room. That album is a must-listen on headphones, and check out Night Mist Blues. It's the second track. One of the coolest images you'll ever hear with refractions and reverb. It's a tremendous effect and a thrill to experience on the Susvara. And the imaging comes as a result of great detail. These headphones resolve better than any non-electrostatic, in my opinion anyway. They are laser precise and wicked fast. And if you think that the headphone you have now is a detail king, like when I bought the Abyss, a quick trip to Susvara land will shred the opinion of what you're currently obsessed with. They are a next level of detail. The soundstage sounds wide to my ears, but it's not a lively soundstage. Take, for instance, the Kennerton. Remember that it impressed me so much in the last episode? There's a sound check to come on that one, by the way. I'm not done with it yet, but when you put a piece of music to the GH50, they have this jumping, electric, live, and lifelike effect. It's kinetic. It's like a live concert feel. The Susvara to me sounds more like a studio effect, more isolated, very clean, a touch cold even. It's a big and wide soundstage, and you have a sense of large rooms and expansive sound. It just leans cooler in presentation, and I think that's why tubes make the most sense for this headphone. Now, dynamics are a little bit tricky on this headphone. It's more like middle of the pack. These don't have the slam of a lot of other headphones in their class. The quiet to loud thing, there's just not a ton of force making a massive impact the way a dynamic driver does, or say a headphone like the Abyss. And the dynamics that really do pop are more in the upper frequencies. So there's plenty of bass presence, but it doesn't hit with a lot of impact and authority. It's probably the one technical shortcoming I'd like to see addressed on this headphone, but I also have a feeling that greater dynamics would come at the expense of some speed. So now it's time to check out sound structure. We're talking treble and mids and bass. But you know it's not going to be in that order, don't you? Starting with the bass, and as I mentioned earlier, there is ample bass presence on the Susvara. It is detailed bass and it runs deep. Really, when you think about it, this is the most detailed bass you can get in any headphone on the market right now, because the only thing faster than the Susvara are electrostatics, and they struggle with bass presence. So this is the fastest bass you can hear in a headphone, and it is remarkable. I just wish it had a little bit of slam, just a little pop. The surprises on the Susvara come in the upper frequencies, not the lower ones. All right, next up we're talking mids, and the mids on the Susvara are all about control and speed. Vocals, in particular female vocals, are a standout. Acoustic instruments. The mids are so fast. You can throw anything at this headphone and it will carve it up and keep it separated. This is where the Susvara really starts to break out of the pack from the other flagship models. Now, one thing to note, I brought this up in the $50,000 shootout. There is a thinness to the upper mids, lower treble area. It's almost a hollow effect, and it's unique to Hifiman and the Hifiman sound. Some people can't stand it. To me, it makes the music sound a bit more layered, but I mention it here because it's gonna turn some people off, and I get it. But personally, it doesn't bother me much because the speed through the mids and the tuning is so sensational. And, of course, we end up with treble. Now, here it's going to be a story of speed as well. The detail is so strong on the Susvara, and they're a delight to listen to. You can peer deep into the music and pull out this micro detail and sparkle, but without losing any of the musicality. You know, the problem that I run into occasionally with the electrostats like the 009S is it does such a good job at detail, and it's so vibrant, you lose some of the seamlessness with the music. It doesn't flow through out to you as well. You get hung up on that detail. Well, the Susvara gives you most of the detail of the electrostatics while staying perfectly smooth. It's a beautiful effect. Music. Well, today with the Susvara, we're going to do something a little different and something a little special. Because of the release of Let It Be, I downloaded the 96K remixes from HD Tracks. It was like 57 tracks, and it's about $44 when you get some coupon codes and stuff going on. I'm going to review the new remixes in the context of the Susvara. Well, we're going to try and see how it goes. I'll admit, I've been a fan of Giles Martin's remix work on the Beatles catalog, and I'm particularly interested to see what he does with the split mono recordings, like what he did with Pepper, because the left-right stereo mixes never really worked for me, especially on headphones like the Susvara. You get the vocals split to one side and guitar and bass on the other. It's always been a hot mess. But these later recordings, like Let It Be and Abbey Road, well, they were fairly well sorted. So it's interesting to hear a different take on the mixes, though the originals strike me as perfectly fine. Listening to the 2021 Let It Be for the first time, I ran the 96K files through the M-Scaler and the Hugo TT2 rig and warmed the whole thing up on the Woo Audio WA5 LE, playing through the Susvara. Of course, because we're talking Susvara, right? Okay. Well, this gave the music an analytical stance, but shaved off some of those harsher edges, and the whole thing had a more analog presentation with a little bit of warmth added in. All right, pressing play, I was initially concerned when I heard two of us. He splits Paul and John out to 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the mix. And I think what works best on this song, and always has, is the two voices blended down the middle. It's a song about two friends singing in harmony on their way home. Separating them took something away from the song, for me anyway. But the bigger issue is, I think he messed with the timing, correcting it. This song has never kept perfect time. It's always had little slowdowns and speed-ups throughout the entire number. And part of the charm of the original is that it feels like this jam that's sort of two guys playing. To my ears, it sounds like the timing has been corrected in this 2021 mix. Maybe he was thinking that the Nagra recorder was the source of the flutter and he was just correcting it. I could be wrong, but regardless, this was not the best start for me. But Dig a Pony quickly reversed course. It has a more lively presentation. I really enjoyed it. I was also pleased to hear that Giles did not mess with the Phil Spector arrangement or orchestration. These are the way we know these songs. We've been hearing them this way for years, and removing the orchestration or putting the song back to its original order, because the chorus Spector edited to the beginning of the song for the album. Well, if he had gone back to the original arrangement on that, it wouldn't have been true to the way we know this album. Now, Across the Universe sounds a bit surrounded by the orchestration. It felt a little bit hot to me, but George's I Me Mine was totally on point. He added space to the mix. But then I got to Let It Be. Now, this is a song that has one of those places in the pantheon of greatest songs ever, and Giles has done wonders with it. Let It Be has been cleaned. Ringo's drums have a better placement in the mix. The toms have more left-right approach. The guitar is more balanced in the mix than the original. Spatially, it's a win, and there's more detail everywhere. Giles has managed to lift a classic rock standard. I've Got a Feeling now has a wider soundstage with much better instrument separation than the original mix. It also seems to have a bit more reverb than I remember, but it totally works for me. He keeps the panning, though, late in the song where John kind of drifts off to 1 p.m. for the refrain. It really works well here. Now, the cut bits in between the tracks are cleaner. You can better make out the stuff that's happening in the crosstalk. These were little bits of film that Spector cut out of the film and inserted between the songs of the original album. The Long and Winding Road has more space in the mix. It's now a wider presentation. Now, Giles said he had a discussion with Paul about this track. He convinced Paul to leave the choir in, though Paul has made it perfectly clear over the years that he felt the Spector orchestration completely wrecked the song. But Paul did request that Giles remove the harp, and I can confirm it's all but eliminated from this 2021 version. But I can also make out some little guitar fills that I don't remember hearing before, and that was a nice touch. For You Blue has new life to it. The slide work is expanded way out to the sides. There's some great work there. Get Back, though, this one sounds a little bit dead to me. It's a little too perfect for my ears. It's sterile. Remember, this is a song that was recorded on the roof of Savile Row. There was a lot of commotion happening, and the record somehow managed to capture that live feel a little bit. Here it's been cleaned a little bit too much for my taste. As a whole, Let It Be has never been considered one of the Beatles' strongest albums, and I have a theory why. It's missing the song Don't Let Me Down. Now, Don't Let Me Down was released as a single, and the Beatles back in the day never put their singles on their LPs. They wanted the fans to get more value when they bought the album, so they kept the singles off. But Don't Let Me Down was to Let It Be and the Get Back project what Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields were to Pepper. It was a critical part of the Get Back story. And to leave it off was leaving John's best contribution to these sessions off of the album. And that was a mistake, because it made the album then feel like a Paul-centric album, and it unbalanced the whole thing. Thankfully, Giles has included a couple of versions of Don't Let Me Down as a part of the extended package. I think it's a big reason why you should consider buying one of the extended Let It Be versions. Now, the outtakes are a little less interesting, mostly because they chose later takes, usually around take 10 or so. And by then, the song is fairly well sorted. I would have appreciated some earlier takes on the bigger numbers. All Things Must Pass is the must-listen to of the outtakes. Hearing Paul's harmony on the song makes you wonder about things that might have been. It comes across as a Grateful Dead song if you listen through the right lens. Also, you can't miss the obvious, and that is this. The Beatles played really well together. Whether they were jamming or rehearsing or on a take, their musicianship and craftsmanship was unparalleled. One last point is that the sound quality of the new mixes is exceptional. It sounds like it could have been recorded yesterday. These masters have held up really well. I've actually been to the street Savile Row in London where the Rooftop concert took place. That was back when I was 1 year old. The building has changed a bit. Actually, I've been to that street a few times. It's a remarkably small area, and I was even detained by police. I guess you'd call them bobbies, but once. But that's a story we'll tell another day. Now, below, I've linked to a Variety interview with Giles. You can read all about his approach to the remix and the choices he made, as well as what he's thinking about for the remixes of Rubber Soul and Revolver. Let It Be, the project, was a flop, although the music certainly endures. One of the more interesting points I'd never considered is that the overall concept of Let It Be, which was getting back to what made them famous, four guys playing together, was flawed. And it was Giles who points this out. You couldn't put the genie back in the bottle at this point in their careers. They had changed considerably since those early days of four guys traveling in a van together and playing gigs at the Cavern Club. By 1969, they had separate homes and lives of their own. Let It Be as a concept was destined for failure. So let's kind of bring this all home, and the Susvara was really an ideal headphone for a first listen to Let It Be. The album leans into this headphone's many strengths, and it's not an album that features a lot of slammy songs where there's thundering bass and stuff. There's just a lot of fun happening in the studio, and this headphone allows that fun to play through. You feel it. The trickier passages are the ones that Spector added, those stringed instruments and the choir voices and the production, stuff like that. The Susvara had no problem dealing with the more intricate arrangements. And when you think about it, the album's main instruments are what? They're acoustic guitars, piano, electric guitars. These are wheelhouse instruments for the Susvara. And the presentation was just beautiful and cohesive. To me, the story of the Susvara is its ability to demonstrate extreme control throughout the entire frequency range. It doesn't run wild. I think for some people, it can make for a less exciting experience, and there's maybe a case to be made there, but all headphones are about compromise. You get more in one area and give away something else. And the Susvara finds a balance with near tonal perfection. That, in my opinion, places it at the top of the headphone market. So finally we get to the money question, and is the Susvara worth $6,000? Personally, the answer is no. I don't think it's twice as good as the HE-1000 SE. I think it's better and it's more refined, but in my opinion, this is more of a $4,500 to $5,000 headphone. 6K is just overreach, but people pay it, so it's worth 6K to someone. Coming up, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Noble Audio K10S. Now, that is a hand-built Prestige edition made for the Director's Garage by Dr. John Moulton himself. He's the brain trust behind the Noble Audio brand. I also have 2 new flagships paid for by the Bank of Directors Garage. Are either of these the start of the Dream Team Part 2? We'll be unveiling that soon. Also, a new IEM on the way from Linsol and new blind What's in the Box episodes from both Linsol and Audio 46. Smells like an over-ear.
Oh, baby.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Director's Garage so you don't miss any of the YouTube magic. It's not magic, no. Give this episode a thumbs up if you enjoyed the breakdown of the Susvara and Let It Be, or do the other thing if you'd rather see me stuck on a spit rotating over a fire at a luau. Can't say I blame you either way, and I will see you before you know it. Mahalo.